video is one of a series covering the released Ohio State math questions between 2017 and 2023. Expressions and equations make 1/3 of the test questions. Use square root and cube root symbols to represent solutions to equations of the form x squared equal p and x cubed equal p, where p is a positive rational number. Evaluate square roots of small perfect squares and cube roots of small perfect cubes. Know that the square root of 2 is irrational.
Hello and welcome. Let's see what you need to know before we get into the questions. And we start with squares and square roots are opposite to each other. What do we mean by this? If you take an x, you square it, you get x squared. That's y. And then you take the cube, the square root of y takes you back to x. Example, take 6 squared is 36, square root of 36 back to 6. Another example, 11 squared is 121, square root of 121 back to 11. Perfect squares and square roots. A perfect square is a product of an integer by itself. And it's like of the form x squared, where x is integer. Here are examples. So 1, 4, 9, 16, all of these are perfect squares. If you take 16, for example, it's 4 squared is equal to 16. 64 is 8 squared is equal to 64. Now, if I add here the square roots, that's the opposite operation. So for instance, 4 squared is 16, square root of 16 is 4. 10 squared is 100, square root of 100 is 10. Now we talk about cubes, and cube roots are also opposite to each other. If you take x cubed is y, and then the cube root of y back to x. Example, 4 cubed is 64, cube root of 64 back to 4. Now we can have negative numbers for the cubes and cube roots. Negative 5 to the power 3 is negative 125. The cube root of minus 125 back to minus 5. Now a perfect cube is a product of an integer by itself 3 times. That's x to the power 3, where x is an integer. Example of perfect cubes, 1, 8, 27, 125. For instance, 64 is 4 times 4 times 4, 64. 125 is 5 times 5 times 5, so 125. That also works for negative numbers. Also, those are perfect cubed. Negative 27 is actually negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9 times negative 3 gives you negative 27, and so on and so forth. Now I can add the cube roots. If you take this one, for instance, 4 cubed is 64, the cube root of 64 back to 4. Same thing goes for the negative numbers here. Remember that perfect squares are always positive or a 0. Perfect cubes can be positive or negative. Now, solving equation of the form a squared is equal to p. P is a positive rational number. So a squared is equal to p. P is a positive rational number. Two solutions. A is equal to plus or minus square root of p. Example, a squared is equal to 81. Two solutions. A is equal to plus or minus square root of 81. That's plus or minus 9. So if you take minus 9, square it, take 9 squared, you get 81. Another example, a squared is equal to 25 divided by 64. Two solutions again. A is plus or minus square root of 25 over 64, and that will give you plus or minus 5 over 8. Now, minus 5 over 8 squared or 5 over 8 squared is 25 over 64. Solving equation of the form a to the power 3a cubed is equal to p positive rational number. One solution here, one solution. If p is positive, you get a positive answer. If p is negative, you get a negative answer. So a is equal cube root of p. Example, a cubed is equal to 64. One solution, a is equal to cube root of 64, which is 4, because 4 times 4 times 4 gives you 64. Another example, a cubed is equal to negative 216 over 1000. One solution, cube root of this number, negative 216 over 1000, that gives you negative 6 over 10. Now, if you take 6 over 10, negative 6 over 10 times it 3 times, you go back, you get back minus 216 over 1000. Now we get to the examples. This example is Ohio State Test 2023, question number 1, level 1. Every time you see this picture, you can pause the video and solve the problem and come back, check your answer. An equation is given, a squared is equal to 36. What is a solution to the equation? They're expecting you to find a solution. So now you just put a squared is equal to 36. Actually, you get two solutions. A is plus or minus square root of 36, which is plus or minus 6. So you can answer minus 6 or 6, or you can put the two of them together. You will get a full mark. This was the first and only question in 2023 on this standard. Example number 2, an equation is given, x cubed is equal to 27. What is the value of x? Remember, when it's cubed, you would have only one answer. Solutions, x cubed is equal to 27. One solution, x is equal to cube root of 27, which is 3. You get 3 here, and you get a full point. This was one of 2 questions in 2018 on this standard. Example number 3, again, level 1, an expression is shown. What is the value of the expression? So you have 2 terms. This term here is cube root of 27 plus 10. So 3 plus 10 is 13. You put 13 here, and you're done. This was one of 2 questions in 2019 on this standard. Example number 4, that's a level 2. An equation is shown, x squared is equal to 16. Select all. So one would expect more than one correct answer. So you solve this, put x squared is equal to 16. 2 solutions, always 2 solutions. X is plus or minus square root of 16, plus or minus 4. You mark it, you get a full mark. This was one of 2 questions in 2021 on this standard. The last example, level 3, 2 equations are shown. Now here you have to pay attention. It's telling you A is positive. A is positive. So a squared is equal to 1 over 64, and b cubed is equal to a. What is the value of b? Normally, when you have 2 equations like that, you have to find one of the unknown from one equation and find it and plug it into the second equation. Here you can see I can find a from this equation. If I plug it here, I can get a b. I can get the b. So solutions, a squared is equal to 1 over 64. Easily, a is equal to 1 over 8. I did not take the negative answer because it says a is positive in the question. Now I put b cubed is equal to a, equal to 1 over 8. b is 1 over cube root of 8, which is 2, 1 over 2. So you can answer this way or this way, and you're done. This was one of 2 questions in 2017 on this standard. And that's all for today. Thank you. Thank you, and see you soon.
Thank you for watching. If you would like to have a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, please leave your email address in the comments section, and we will be happy to email you a copy.